Today I want to talk about part two of why Gen Z won't grow up. Okay, but it's a sequel, but it's actually a different topic. So it's not so much about like the environment, finances, and like whatever else, but it's a little bit different because like the actual physical appearance. I heard someone bring this up that Gen Z doesn't look like grown-ups, even though they are grown-ups. I'm not saying like all of Gen Z doesn't look like grown-ups. You know, there's a lot of Gen Z that do look more adultish, if you want to say that. But the majority of Gen Z doesn't look like they have grown up. You know, there's like a lot of, like in guys, for example, there's a lot of feminine features, and in girls there's even like more feminine features. Like it's almost like it's like this chronic hormonal imbalancement. And you know, I'm gonna get off onto a tangent and probably into conspiracies a little bit, but it's whatever. It's whatever. I mean, all conspiracies are conspiracies until they're not. You know, it's like we're not. It's not that we're not right. We're just not right now. Straight up bars. Why Gen Z won't grow up, and you see this not only now, but I would say all throughout high school and a little bit in middle school as well. I remember crazy story. I think I was in like 7th or 8th grade. One of the two. I was actually the first kid in my entire middle school to actually start growing out a beard. I don't know if that's normal or that's really abnormal, but I was the first kid to grow out a beard, and it wasn't like a full-grown like neck beard, like, you know, around like the jawline. A lot of it was just kind of like, what do you want to call those, like mutton chops, like the little sideburns or whatever. And I had kids coming up to me and they would say like, "Oh, Tanner, like you can't shave that." Is there a fire? Might be a fire up ahead, but I'll keep talking. And like there was kids coming up to me and saying like, "Tanner, dude, I'm telling you, you can't shave that. You gotta let it grow out. You gotta let it grow out. I don't make the rules." Like they're saying this to me, like I don't have a choice, you know? And if I did shave it, I think I might have shaved it like once or twice throughout my entire 8th grade year, because all the kids were like super pressuring me to, you know, not shave it and like whatever. Oh, you know what? That fire was at a plant. I don't know what that is. But yeah, I see the fire now. No concerns. But yeah, there was like kids coming up to me. I remember my best friend growing up. His name's Gavin. He would say like, "Dude, I think that's like the coolest stuff ever," or like whatever, you know. And it's so crazy because it's just like facial hair, but no other kid had it. You know, it was kind of like a sign of manhood. And now, like with the looks maxing community, they're kind of going in the opposite direction of where I believe that we should be going, you know. And kind of like, I think a lot of this kind of coincides with like your degrading values of our society. Like they really want more like feminine men. They want more men to just give up all of this, that, and the other. But you know, like with the looks maxing community, dude, that's just that. Like you look at all these kids that are quote unquote like true Adam, and if you don't know what true Adam means, you're in luck because you don't know about all this freaking Zoomer freaking slop language. So like true Adam is like the peak is like the peak looks max, you know. And even though they are considered like the peak of true atom of looks maxing, they're still very feminine. They're still very feminine. They have very feminine features. They hardly have any like any facial hair, which I'm not saying facial hair is definitively what makes you like a man or what makes you have masculine features. But man, it's a large part of it. It really is. Dude, men are hairy creatures. And like, so are women too, but dude, men are like way more hairy. They're supposed to be. You know, that's just kind of like in our genetics. And you see this with a lot of guys that are very like high testosterone. You know, they tend to have naturally very actually I'm going to do another 360 around this roundabout. They naturally have this is so crazy, very hairy bodies, whereas man, you know, a lot of people like to harp on men about this, but you know, there is such thing as a woman being too feminine as well. You know, like you see this and kind of like, man, they almost look malnourished in a way, you know. And so do Gen Z men, but you especially see this in Gen Z women. You know, I don't know how many like Gen Z women that I see that look very malnourished, you know. And a lot of people will say like, oh well, it's, you know, oh, my phone's about dead. Let me plug in a charger real quick. Just trying not to crash. And you know, I know a lot of people will try and say like, oh well, it's yeah, you know, and a lot of people will say like, oh, it's you know, it's like the pressures of society. You know, like there was that one song about like shutting up and counting your freaking calories or some crap. But man, I think I think that is partially true, but I think it's missing the other part, which is everyone's messed up diet, everyone's messed up hormones, the really crappy water that they're feeding us. You know, like where I'm at right now, the water literally leaves stains in the bathroom all over. It literally chips the paint off of my bathtub. You know, like I feel like that can't be good. I know it's a lot worse in other places. Like I think like California is really bad. I think New York especially is really bad. But you know, anyways, so yeah, you have the water, you have the diet, and you also have the stress. The stress is a huge factor. And not only that, you know, the stress, like, and I hear the older generation kind of make this argument, is that there was a lot more stress back then, and that's absolutely true. The problem with that is that that there's not a stress management for my generation. And honestly, I wouldn't even say my generation. I would say all three generations: the Zoomers, the Millennials, and the Boomers. The three generations right there. You know, because everyone's living in this sort of restless state. Yeah, you know, I made a video about this in the past. I think it's called like Blissful, and it's talking about like doom scrolling, where everyone's just in this constant restless state. But it's so true. Everyone's in this constant restless state to where, you know, you can't really manage your stress very well. I don't know anyone that's not addicted to their phone, at least to some level, you know? And it's easy to be addicted to your phone when you need it for everything. You need your phone for literally everything, like work, like connecting with others, like you name it. You name it, you need your phone for. You know, you need your phone to keep up with what's going on in today's society. And not only societal stuff, but also like political stuff. Like, Are we going in boots on the ground with Iran? Is the Antichrist coming up? And like all this end time crap that's going on, which I think I just posted a video about, But dude, it's so true. We're just in this constant restless state with our phones trying to stay connected. And another thing, it would be a lot easier to not, have your phone. I think I'm going the right way. It would be a lot easier to like just throw your phone in the trash, or just, pretend like your phone's not there, if more people weren't chronically alone and isolated. If people weren't more chronically alone and isolated, there would be a lot less phone usage. I said it. I said what I said. And not only that, but I've been in friend groups where you did have each other's company super frequently, but the friend group didn't really get along with one another, and it was missing this connection. And the missing of the connection is huge, okay? Because I thought this roundabout went all the way around. Oh, there's another one though. And like the missing of the connection is huge, right? Because then you don't have that sort of connection with others. So then you naturally just want to be on your phone to kind of escape, And this is where you get the saying where, a lot of people nowadays can relate to, where they say like, man, the loneliest I felt was in a group of people, was in the midst of, like the group of people that, that they're with. And so now they're on their phone, escaping from reality with people. They leave that group of people. Now they're on their phone trying to escape from reality of being chronically isolated and lonely. So I just want to touch on that quickly about stress management and why it's harder nowadays to manage stress. And just to give some understanding, I know I have some boomers occasionally in the comments when people do decide to leave comments about you guys have no idea, you got soft hands, all this other crap. But that's all right. I love hearing other people's views and opinions despite what they think. But anyways, so now you have that. You have the stress management. You have the diet, and then you also have the societal pressure, which I think I touched on that a little bit, but I want to get more in depth into it. So I already said the stuff about looks maxing, where people are very concerned about and again, if you don't know anything about looks maxing, go ahead and give yourself a pat on the back, because that stuff is straight up slop. That stuff is straight up slop. It's basically like what the bodybuilding community kind of degraded into over the past couple years, but it's strictly about your facial structure, about pad inserts on your shoulders, about heel inserts in your shoes to make yourself taller. And it's a lot of black pill content. Again, if you don't know what black pill content, give yourself a pat on the back, because it's a bunch of slop. Black pill content is Zoomer slang, okay? Zoomer slang for hopelessness. Kind of having a doomer mindset, the world's doomed anyways. Might as well not even try. This is where you hear but I don't want to get too off topic. But anyways, so you have that, and you also have other things that the looks maxing community brings, which is drug abuse. Okay, and with drug abuse, it not only are you kind of not growing up as like a Gen Zer, like with your very like feminine features, men and women, but you're not making it past like 30. A lot, I don't want to say a lot, I am going to say a lot. There's a lot of pressure around social media about, and this all plays together. Like if you notice, this all kind of coincides together, where you're looking for a connection and you can't find any, so you're chronically online, you're chronically on social media trying to escape from reality. Okay, it's not rolling up all the way. You're chronically trying to escape from reality, and then thus you're naturally, you don't really get to choose your algorithm. You don't really get to choose your algorithm because you're constantly ingesting short form content. The only place that you really do get to choose your algorithm and what you watch is YouTube. And there's another video I want to make about that. But anyways, where was I? Yeah. So now they're pushing a lot of like these experimental chemicals. Peptides is a big one right now. Everyone would like to say, well, peptide this, peptide that, stem cell therapy, this. A lot of it is like, it just doesn't have a lot of research backed with it. I'd say it doesn't have a lot of research to kind of back it up in a way. So now you have all these kids, and I'm going to say kids because it literally is all kids, ingesting these research chemicals into their face, into their body, into various parts. Like, I think a big one a little while ago, I want to say a few years back, I think it was insulin. I don't know if it was insulin, but it was basically an injection to kind of make your muscles pop. I think it was like this oily substance, without actually building the muscle. So you didn't actually have to put in the work to make your muscles pop. Okay, but that's just one. But you also have the peptides. Peptides are huge. Okay, they're all over, and there definitely are a lot of good peptides. I think there's like BPC 157, which I think is all right. But there's also a lot of other peptides that the looks maxing community is using. So yeah, BPC 157, which it's essentially to help heal injured tissue, from how I understand it. But you have many others where, like clavicular, there's a few clips floating around, I think right now maybe even, where you can literally see him injecting shots into his face. Okay, injecting shots into his face. Okay, so peptides, put that on the back burner. You also have steroid usage. Okay, you have steroid usage, and this kind of coincides with looks maxing a little bit, because they want a certain body type, and they can't really get that, or they don't believe that they can get that without steroid usage. And again, all of this would go away along with social media, but obviously social media is not just going to go away. So here we are, and so you have the peptides and you have the steroids. I think I talked about this in a previous video about like gym culture and stuff, where there was like the 16-year-old kid who's promoting these PEDs. Excuse me, I think I kept saying peptides. I meant PEDs and steroids, which is basically the same thing. So he's promoting these PEDs as a 16-year-old kid who like benches 405, has a pretty crazy physique, all this, that, and the other. And you click on the link, it shows that you have to be 21. So that's just a show. Nope. Riding on the median. So that's just to show that this kid is illegally taking these PEDs, and not only that, but he's pushing it to other kids his age. It's a 16-year-old. He might be 17 now. Okay, but now you have steroid usage, okay? And that has a lot to do with the bodybuilding community. Not only the bodybuilding community, but also a little bit of the powerlifting community. Community. It's about like a 70-30 or 80-20 split, where you have, I want to say, like 80% bodybuilding and 20% powerlifting. That kind of pushes these, kind of propagandizes these kind of thresholds that it's almost like you feel like you have to meet. So, anyways, just to kind of sum it up, you have the looks maxing community, which is a huge part, and everything that I just mentioned with PEDs, with the peptides, with overall steroid usage, decreasing the lifespan of your average Zoomer. So they're not growing up in the literal sense in that way. But also you have the chemical, or I don't want to say like the chemical sense. Like the chemical, what I mean by chemical is the diets, the water supply, all the chemicals that they're putting into our food supply, into our water, all that. And I think that basically sums it up of why Gen Z physically isn't growing up, and also why Gen Z literally is not growing up. And also, a little controversial, abortion. A third of Gen Z has been aborted. This is a huge talking point in the political community. Especially the more far right leaning political community, which I don't want to get into far left or far right, but I really do want to kind of harp on this for just a brief moment, just kind of closing this off. So abortion is a huge issue because now we're in this society where we're aging. It's an aging society, and you have a lot of these, and this is another reason why I think there's a lot of bitter old people. It's because they don't have a lot of grandkids visiting them. They don't have a lot of kids in general visiting them. And people can say all they want that it's because they didn't treat them right, or they didn't put them in their will to have all like their wealth. Valid reasons, but a reason that I never hear anyone else say is that there's just not that many kids anymore, And so now, not only do you have abortion, not like where Gen Z's not coming about, but you also have like the lack of babies being born. I think it's at an all-time low in American history. Crazy. All-time low in American history, where people just aren't having babies, and if they are, they're usually having them out of wedlock. They're usually not having them in the most ideal scenarios, and most people want to have babies in the ideal scenarios. And this is where you kind of have both sides of pro-life and pro-choice clash. But I think there is like a middle ground to be played, which I don't really see a lot of them playing. Like, yeah, it is true that I'm kind of going off on a tangent, but just to sum up, abortion as well. It's so crazy. A third of Gen Z has been aborted. So now we're in this aging society where a lot of it, obviously a majority of it is older people. You have millennials and boomers. But also you have the younger generation that's not growing up, figuratively and literally and physically, and also dying off due to like all these social pressures. So I think I summed that up all right. Anyways, I think that's all I got to talk about. Yeah. Anyways, God bless.